Flames trade rumors are escalating as multiple writers have linked a young Minnesota Wild stud to the Calgary Flames. A trade could definitely occur as the player involved is exactly what the Flames are looking for, and many are urging General Manager Craig Conroy to inquire this offseason. We're going to get into all that and more in this video, but first I want to welcome you to Flames Digest. I'm Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love the Flames, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around your Calgary Flames. We would love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family, and believe it or not, YouTube's actually telling me that only around 30% of the people watching are subscribed. So if you could do me a solid and hit that sub button, it means a lot and I sincerely appreciate it. But let's get into how Marco Rossi, that is the man named in the articles, has been linked to the Calgary Flames. Now, it's not necessarily the first time that Rossi has been linked to the Flames, just because he truly is kind of exactly what the Flames are looking for. But we have a couple articles today, both by Flames writers. First one by my favorite Flames writer out there, Rupert McDonald. So he actually wrote a big article. We're only going to go over part of it. But he wrote Flames News and Rumors, Rossi, Zary, Wolf, and more. As you can imagine, we're not going to hop into the Zary, Wolf, and more in this, our actual Flames, but we're going to talk about Rossi. So, in this edition of Calgary Flames News and Rumors, Marco Rossi could be on the move from the Minnesota Wild, and the Flames would be wise to make a move for him. That's what we're going to focus on. There it is already being linked to the Calgary Flames, and apparently there's rumors of him, being on his way out of Minnesota. It kind of has to do with the fact that maybe he gets buried in the lineup a little bit too much. He's not being given the opportunity he wholly wants. Again, it's totally rumors more than anything else. I know Rossi has spoken out a little bit, and we're going to get into some of that, but overall it is very interesting. So could the Flames make a move for Rossi? The Flames' need for a top-line center became increasingly evident as the 2024-25 season went on, and has become the number one need for the organization heading into the summer. Absolutely. These players are often hard to come by as other teams don't often make them available, though the Flames may now have a target in Minnesota Wild forward Marco Rossi. And if you disagree with the "this is wild" on the thumbnail, take it in a literal sense, because that's what's going down here. Now, if you aren't familiar with Marco Rossi, let's get into some of his stats here. So in 82 games this past season, he had 24 goals, 36 assists for 60 points, which would have been very good on the Calgary Flames. He was +3 on a Minnesota Wild team that was so hot to start and then ended up falling kind of off a cliff a little bit, but still obviously crawled into the playoffs above the Flames, and then had a decent little series there against Vegas. In 18 minutes of ice time per average, he was pretty good this season, well above that 50% Corsi for percentage, and not too bad from a man who is still 23 years old. I know Flames fans will be concerned about the height at just 5'9", but in today's NHL, speed and skill mean more than anything else. But that's kind of what Rossi was rocking with this past season. Now, if we continue the article here, so Rossi, who went 9th overall in the 2020 NHL draft, is coming off of a season in which he scored 24 goals and 60 points in 82 games, as we just saw. He has a very bright future ahead of him, but that future may not come with the Wild. The 23-year-old was visibly frustrated talking about his role or lack thereof in this year's postseason. Here's a quote from him. "I have no doubt that I'm for sure a top 6 guy," said Rossi, who is centering the Wild's 4th line in the playoffs. Now, let me tell you, he's very skilled. Obviously, he can produce a little bit with 60 points this past season. If he was on the Calgary Flames, instantly becomes the top line center. Maybe second line center, obviously with Nazem Kadri up top, playing super well so far in his tenure as a Flame. But Rossi would certainly see would see power play time. Not certainly playoff time, we can only hope. But would certainly see power play time and would be at least, a second line center, if not top. And let's be honest, Huska kind of shuffles the lines all the time, so it could happen. Now, Rossi is a pending RFA and may not be interested in signing a new contract with the Wild. Should GM Bill Guerin look to move him in the summer, it's a trade the Flames should be all over. Not only is he a centerman, but he boasts a ton of potential and fits perfectly into the Flames' timeline. Yes, he does. And it's kind of those contracts that Conroy has been after so far. It could be similar to the Coronato contract, maybe a little bit more expensive, obviously, but the ones that we talked about with Zary recently as well, they're all kind of in that same age range. Now, This isn't the only article that's going over this. Also, Colton Pankow, he also said that Wild center Marco Rossi could be traded and checks all the boxes for the Calgary Flames. So that's two Flames writers linking the young Wild player, the young Wild star, to the Calgary Flames. So it's no secret that the Flames need to improve down the middle of the ice, with the main goal for this organization being to find a centerman who can play top 6 minutes, preferably, top 3 minutes. GM Craig Conroy did address the organization's center depth in January, acquiring Morgan Frost as well as winger Joel Farabee in a trade with the Flyers. That said, Frost, while a skilled player, isn't the game breaker down the middle that the Flames are still in search of, and it just is true. I love a bit of Frosty, but he's not going to be the number one center of the future. Finding such players is no easy task, though there may be one available this summer. Well, gee, I wonder who it is. Marco Rossi, a player who has been discussed as a potential trade target for the Flames in the past, doesn't seem to be happy in his current role with the Minnesota Wild. Despite scoring 24 goals and 60 points this season, the 2029th overall pick found himself centering the fourth line during the Wild's first round series versus the Vegas Golden Knights, and voiced his displeasure in his development during his season-ending media availability. Very interesting. I know these articles are very similar, but it just is true. It just shows that two different writers are saying it, and a lot of the fan base is saying it as well. Now, Rossi is still just 23 years old, indicating he isn't anywhere close to reaching his ceiling yet. He is small at 5'9", 182 pounds, but has an extremely high skill level, which suggests he could develop into a legitimate first-line center. And it's true. A lot of people will say, we already have small guys. We have guys like Coronato. I mean, again, skill sometimes beats it. I know people will disagree because of what happened to the Flames in the playoffs over the past 10 years, but I digress. Despite Rossi's continued improvement during his time with the Wild organization, there have been rumblings for several years now that he may be traded. His latest comments at his exit interview have increased that speculation tenfold. What a great word. I love that one. Said to become an RFA, AFP Analytics is projecting that if Rossi signs a long-term deal, it will be a 7-year extension worth roughly $7.4 million per season. If he were to agree to a bridge deal, instead, they are estimating it to be just a 2-year contract with a cap hit of $4.55 million, both of which I don't think would be the worst thing for the Flames to sign. Obviously, 7 years at roughly $7.4 million is expensive, but it would be a gamble for sure, but it could be worth going for. Who knows what Minnesota is going to do as well, as they're the ones that this really matters for. So overall, it is interesting, but both affordable contracts for now for the Flames, of course. Conroy has done an excellent job at accruing cap space in his time as the Flames GM, which sets themselves up very nicely to sign Rossi to a long-term deal should they see a fit. Frankly, it's hard not to see one, as he checks off several needs for the organization and fits perfectly into their rebuilding timeline. These two articles mirrored each other, but overall, they just mirror the sentiments of the Sea of Red. And I honestly can't say I know many Minnesota Wild fans personally in my life, but I know they have a huge fan base, and the fan base seems kind of split. A lot of them agree with Rossi, saying, why was he given, such a small opportunity, such small responsibility in the playoffs after such a good season? Whereas others are saying, he's small, he sucks, he's washed, get him out of here, he's going to ask for too much money. Every fan base is going to be like that, but overall, I think it'll be very interesting to see what does happen with Rossi this summer, and if the Calgary Flames are keeping their eyes on Mr. Rossi himself. Now let's wrap up this video with the comment of the day, as we love to do here on the channel. Comes from the most recent video on the channel, of course, and it comes from Arrow. Now, Arrow said, Zary is easily my fave player after Zane. Now, I hope he stays with us for his whole career. I rate him more than Coronato, so hope we sign him for the long term. A little bit of a bold statement in there, but it is true. Zary is great, and I think most fans want to see him signed to more of a long-term contract than a bridge deal. I personally still think it might make more sense for a bridge deal, both especially for him and maybe for the franchise. But overall, it'll be very interesting, and I think most people want to see Zary in a flame sweater for the foreseeable future. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe like you saw here today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.